So, um, Hi, my name's Riley. I am a transsexual female to male. Obviously, hormones. No surgery yet because of health reasons and because of other social reasons. And it's really not that needed for me. Luckily, I was not well endowed in that area, thankfully. Anyway, I wanted to just come on here and make a video because leaving comments for all the things that I'd like to address is just time consuming and tedious, and I'd rather just make a video, I guess, and put it all out there. So I wanted to talk about how lately I have been banned and quote unquote canceled by the woke left LGBT trans activists groups. I've been called true scum, too cute, whatever that is, trans medicalist, which I absolutely do identify with, and I will tell you why. I started my transition back in, back in 2003, I think. I was like 23, 24, somewhere around there. I'm 43. Started my transition my first year of college, actually. And this was back when transitioning was still not as open and discussed as it is now. I actually transitioned in Texas, which was not a very trans-friendly place, and apparently still not. But when I transitioned, it was actually difficult because doctors and medical professionals were following the Harry Benjamin Standards of Care, which set out kind of a groundwork path of the process of transitioning. Because I, as a female to male transsexual, actually experienced gender dysphoria, and as such was diagnosed with gender dysphoria, and the overwhelming consensus for treatment of gender dysphoria is medical transitioning. And so that's what I did. And I started hormones. I had my name legally changed on my 25th birthday, actually. And so I have a bit of an issue with the whole idea of a trans umbrella. To where now it's like there's no necessity for medical diagnoses or reasoning for people to claim a trans label or to seek medical transition. There's these gender clinics now that have gender affirming care doctors and medical professionals that are essentially just basically giving people hormones after like a 30-minute visit. Like this is insane. I'm sorry. But and to kids. Oh, wow. I, as a transitioned female to male transsexual who happens to also be a medical professional, I don't think this is right. I don't know what my medical colleagues are thinking or what they're doing or why they're doing it. I don't know if it's political pressure from the left to do this gender affirming care in children, but I don't agree. I didn't start my transition, like I said, until I was 24. I knew I was trans. I struggled with my identity. I think along the same ways and lines as everyone else who is somewhere on the GLBT spectrum does. Mostly because I was struggling not only with my gender identity, but also my sexual orientation. So I got a lot of confusion and murkiness back and forth because for the longest time, I thought that, because I was masculine and I was a biological female, that therefore that meant that I was butch, and that meant that I was a lesbian because I was attracted to women, but I was still also kind of attracted to men. And so I tried to put myself into a category and into a box of, lesbianism, and that didn't quite fit, mostly because when I was around lesbian women, they seemed to want to kind of hate on men a lot. And as someone who saw himself as a guy and who wanted to be male, it was very off-putting to be around women who were so man-hating. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is not the right fit for me. And so I then started, looking into this idea that, maybe I'm not a lesbian because maybe I'm not a female. And I started researching into, gender dysphoria. What does that mean? What do you do about it? How do you fix it? And I started finding stuff online about medical transitioning for female to males. And I was like, okay, well, maybe that's more me. I mean, because I grew up with not so much feminine influence, I should say. I had a dad who was a retired military guy. He was a police officer. So he had that strong male, masculinity, toxic masculinity, maybe, I don't know, influence. So he always was trying to make me into being, this strong, independent, like, I'll handle it myself kind of person. And I still am. I'm very independent, actually. I'm very introverted, very independent. I don't really like help, and I don't like to talk to people. I know. Why did I go into healthcare? That's a whole other story. I actually don't do patient-facing healthcare. But my point being, I guess, in this video is this idea of self-ID, that people are able to basically say how they feel, and that's enough to validate an identity. And it seems like we've gotten away from, it's okay to be a butch woman. It's okay to be a masculine woman. It's okay to be a butch lesbian. It's okay to be a feminine lesbian. It's okay to be a feminine man. It's okay to be a masculine man. It's okay to be gay. It's okay to be bi. It's okay to be trans, whatever. But I think everybody has a mix of both gender stereotypes in society. It's just how we get along. It's how do I say this? Everybody exhibits masculine and feminine traits. That doesn't mean, though, that you're necessarily both genders or a gender, or think that there's 72,567 genders. I don't agree with that. I see gender, and every time I ask, this crowd, this group of people, questions to basically, how do you validate this? How do you justify this definition? Because I'm a man of science. That's why I am a trans medicalist. I do agree that there should be some sort of safeguards in place so that people don't make huge, regrettable decisions that's going to impact the rest of their lives and permanently alter their bodies. That's why these safeguards are in place. This is why I definitely advocate for the way that the Harry Benjamin standards of care were laid out, because they want you to go to therapy for a long time. Okay? Like this is something that's going to affect the rest of your life. This is something that's going to affect your body for the rest of your life. This is going to affect the health of your body for the rest of your life. So this is something that somebody shouldn't just be able to go into all willy-nilly, you know, with a 30-minute appointment and come out with body and life-altering hormones. I don't agree with that at all, especially in children, because children should not be able to make that decision. And if parents are making that decision for their child, I consider that child abuse. Because that child's not able to make that decision. And if the parents are giving that child puberty blockers or hormones or surgery, you are permanently disfiguring and altering your child's body. And that's a cause for concern. I just don't agree with it. I see it as, you know, if you're not able to have a beer in a bar until you're 21 years old, why are you able to put hormones in your body? That's going to permanently alter your mood, your whole being, the whole way you present yourself, your whole physical, you know, secondary sexual characteristics, you know, baldness, facial hair, you know, all that stuff. It's going to happen. And regardless of whether it's like, oh, I made a mistake, I'll just take the other hormones and reverse back if I regret it. That's not the way you should be approaching transsexualism. Okay? It's not a fad. It's not a trend. It's not something that, oh, I'm going to go do this and then change my mind and get medical people to agree with me and let me change back. Because honestly, those medical professionals shouldn't have let you change back in the first place, because they shouldn't have let you transition in the first place if you were going to be of the mindset of hormones are something to play around with, because they're not. And speaking as a medical professional, hormones are not 100% safe or without consequence or without side effects. They absolutely are. That's why trans people take them, for those side effects, you know, for that. And I don't understand why people who identify as non-binary, who they don't make any changes. They don't seek transition. They don't seek surgery. They don't get on hormones. All they do is they change their pronoun to they, them, or something else. And again, I'm going to go back to this idea, and what I stated earlier is that everybody exhibits some masculine and feminine traits. It's nature. It's natural. It's what we do. You know, we don't want somebody to be 100% masculine, and we don't want somebody to be 100% feminine. We want a balance in someone's brain to be able to do both. And, you know, to some extent, of course it leans, you know, one way or the other. But if you're not doing these things, and especially if you don't experience any gender dysphoria, what would be the point of seeking hormones or surgery to transition to a gender or a gender expression that you don't, or say you don't, believe in? It doesn't make sense. It contradicts itself. Because, like, if you don't identify with being masculine or feminine or male or female, why would you seek gender affirming care? Does that make sense? Like, why would you want to seek somebody to affirm a gender in a gender binary, male, female, whatever, that you don't agree with? Why would you seek that out? Why would you say you're trans when the meaning of trans is to transition, to go from one side to another, to go, you know, to transition? Like, that's what trans is. It means to transition, like, or, you know, to be going from one to another. from one side to another. And if you don't believe me, because I know you won't, okay, go look it up. Look it up scientifically. Look it up medically, okay? Transition means to go from one side of a binary to another. It's in chemistry. If you look at the structure of elements and molecular structures of chemical compounds, there is cis and there is trans. There is cis meaning that both, of the essential carbon atoms or whatever of that molecule are on the same side. And to trans means that they are on opposite sides of a central carbon atom. So that means crossing over. That means going from one to another. So if you're not doing that, then how are you trans? That's my point. And I get a lot of this whole trans medicalisms, true scum, I'm horrible, I'm transphobic. I'd love to know how I'm transphobic as a transsexual man. But, that's the idea, is if you are identifying with nothing but a new pronoun, how are you trans? And what I see a lot is that this phenomenon, this trend, and yes, I think it's a trend, of these people identifying as non-binary often happen to be, and I actually looked at statistics on this. I don't remember the numbers. I'm sorry. I will find it if you want me to post the link. But basically saying that like 80% of the people that identify as non-binary are white. Like 78% of them are US citizens, and like something in the realm of like 70% are urban dwellers. So let's see. We got a bunch of white city folk, and usually most of them are assigned female at birth because they tend to be the ones who are most emotionally volatile about this. So tell me how that's not a trend. If you look at the statistical data, like it just points to people of privilege. It does. It's white city urban dwellers in the US. Like, how is that not a trend? And especially given that the statistical data that shows that people who are transsexual, okay, only make up like 1% of the population, if that. And then on top of that, people who identify their sexual identity as gay, lesbian, bi, or something, alternative of straight, only makes up about 10% of the population. So tell me how a classroom of 20 students has half of them identifying as trans or non-binary. It doesn't statistically make sense. But my point, again, going back to this, is if you're just using a new pronoun and you're not changing anything about yourself, you're not transitioning in any way because you don't experience gender dysphoria, then why are you calling yourself trans if you don't believe in labels? Why do you want this one so bad? And why are you identifying under a trans umbrella with people like me who do seek medical transition, who do get on hormones, who does do the life test, who does socially transition, and not just where it's comfortable for me? That's another thing, is why I think this non-binary trending identity thing is kind of, well, crap. Because I, as a transitioned transsexual, do not get to take off my trans identity where it's safe, where it's comfortable, or where I have a safe space to do so. I don't get to, maybe I can, but I don't. I don't go out seeking revenge on people who misgender me. I don't go out looking to cancel or ban people who misgender me. I don't go out trying to sue people or get them fired for misgendering me, because life is about more than my pronouns. And if you take a look around the world, it's pretty shitty. So maybe you could focus on something a little more important. Maybe prioritize. So, yeah, I don't agree with non-binary. I don't agree that children should be able to transition or get hormones. I don't agree that their parents should be allowed to make that decision for them. And, you know, if you want to do it at 18, go for it. I have no problems with you identifying however you want. And I have no problems with kids, you know, experimenting with gender expression and, you know, playing around with it. But I would not give them medical treatment. I would not give them hormones. I would not give them surgery. And that's speaking as a medical professional. I don't know what's going on in the world anymore. I really don't. And I don't know why we've shifted this idea in healthcare to gender affirming care with doctors and nurses and medical professionals letting kids do this. It just blows my mind how you think this is not doing harm when an oath that medical professionals take is to do no harm. You know, for me, transitioning was the best treatment that I could have had. But it's not for everybody. And I think these people need a lot more therapy, talk therapy, before they make any permanent decisions with their bodies. I feel sad for the detransitioners, the ones who did start transition under false pretenses. They were either lied to by doctors, or they were able to get access too easily, or they did it illegally, or, you know, a lot of other things. And I don't agree with it. I don't know how we got to this point as medical professionals. I really don't. And while I am very supportive of GLBT people, I mean, I'm a bisexual identified trans man myself. I have no reason to be homophobic or transphobic. But I am going to stop you at a point where we should be allowed to call insane, and allowed to be called crazy. Because it is. And, you know, when you get to, you know, this fine line between progressivism and delusion, and affirming delusion, is where I start to have a problem. Because when you start exhibiting signs of mental illness, that needs to be treated first before you ever start thinking about transitioning. Because if you don't love yourself first, you are going to have a horrendous time with transition. Because you have to develop a thick skin to do this. And because you're going to get harassed. You're going to face a lot of people who don't agree with you, and you need to learn how to deal with it. Because you can't go around banning and canceling everyone who disagrees with you. That's ridiculous. You need to grow up. Okay? You need to grow up, face the real world, and realize that your decisions are your decisions, and the world does not have to accommodate you. Okay? So learn how to navigate the world being who you are, and that's fine. I'll support you. But when you go around trying to force others to affirm or coddle you because you can't handle it on your own, then you need to go to therapy. Because that's the essential part. That is going to be the foundation for transition. Because you're going to need it. And I'm telling you now, you're going to need it. Okay? Because the world is a hard place to navigate, especially when you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. You can't possibly know until you actually do it. You can't possibly know. You will not understand the nuance of gender until you transition and you see all the things that are associated with gender. You know, you're going to lose some of your privileges, flat out. If you are a female to male, you're going to lose that privilege of things like ladies getting free night. That ain't gonna happen. Somebody offering to stop on the side of the road when you have a flat tire to help you as a guy, ain't gonna happen. They're gonna expect you to know how to do that shit yourself. You know, as a guy, I have women walk across the street to avoid me because they automatically assume the worst of men, and that hurts. As someone who was biologically female, that hurts to know that women think of men that way. But that's true in society, and you have to understand those things. If you're going from male to female, realize that your male privilege may be lost. People are maybe not going to respect you as much. They're not going to acknowledge and give value to what you say as much. If there's a man saying it over you saying it as a woman, they're probably going to take the man's side. Like, that's just how it is. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. And I see this in a lot of these non-binary identified people, is that they want to put on the clothing and whatever, and the gender expression of whatever gender they feel, where it's safe for them to do so. Or they want to claim they're male and female, where it's safe to do so. Or where they gain some kind of privilege in doing so. I'm here to tell you, I'm 20 years transitioned, okay? And I don't get to take this off where it's safe. I don't. I don't get to say I'm not trans anymore where it's safe, or where I have a safe space, or if somebody triggers me, I don't get to revert back to what's comfortable, because this is who I am. And if you don't like it, well, you can suck it. I don't know. Like, I'm not here to please other people, and I'm not here to force my ideas on being trans on other people. Like, if somebody misgenders me, because I do get that still over the phone, not so much in person, but over the phone, I still get misgendered. I'd say 1 out of 20 times, maybe. But, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'm actually a he, and they move on, and that's it. I don't make a big deal out of it. I don't know. I think some parts of what this whole non-binary thing is that they, in some aspects, I think maybe they're just jealous of transitioned transsexuals who actually pass well in society and can blend in with the cisgender heteronormative ideology. Because I do have a lot of straight friends. I have a lot of cisgender friends, because that's the goal of my transition. That was the goal, is transition, become a guy, live my life as a guy. And so I do, and I get a lot of hate for it, because apparently it's fun to hate on men. So, anything I say now gets automatically shut down. I cannot talk like this to the non-binary crowd, because they will immediately shut me down, not engage in any kind of civil discourse, and will just ban me or cancel me or just shut me down completely, instead of answering these questions that people have, because they're trying to understand you. They really are. They want to understand you. But you've got to understand they have valid points in calling out your contradictions. They're valid points. Do better. Either learn to be secure in yourself and be able to explain yourself confidently and unashamed, and be able to back that up, because what you're doing now by just banning and canceling people and shutting them down makes it look like you are unstable. It makes it look like your identity is crap, because it can't be defended, because you get so annoyed and so triggered that you have to just make it go away when people ask you these things. It makes it look like that whole concept, that whole identity should be invalidated, because you can't defend it, because you run off and retreat and hide and seek revenge on people for asking you a question or misgendering you or using the wrong pronoun. Like, you make it such a big deal, and the way you react, that it makes it look not real. Because if it was something that was real and valid, you should be able to defend it, and defend it calmly, sanely, rationally without reverting to petty revenge on people. Does that make sense?